Happy Fire Alarm Friday and welcome to System Test 21. So today's system test is going to be another kind of unique setup. This one I've got some devices that I haven't yet shown you that I've obtained in my collection as indicated here by the whiteboard here. I am terrible with model numbers, and so I had to write some of them down, and I figured I'll just write all of them down so I don't forget them. So there's a couple new things, and then my longtime viewers will see a return of one of the devices here for this week's video. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the pull station, this kind of already spoils the system. We have a Mertone or Mertone 73303U. This pull station is commonly used in Canada. It's branded by many different brands. Mertone, Mercom, Simplex even has a variant of it. A lot of times you'll see these with both English and French markings, since in Canada some of the pull stations are required to have French markings on them as well. So I have the Mertone version of it. It's a very basic pull station, kind of an oddball as far as how you reset it. And there is a slot for a glass brake rod, which I am not using in this case, though I do have a glass rod for it, and I'll show you. It's actually inside this pull station. They built it such that these rails here on the corners were meant to be able to hold spare glass brake rods in the event that the station gets pulled. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move along. We will not be using the moderator alarm in its regular capacity today. We've actually kind of got something a little bit different planned for it here. So the key switch isn't going to be doing much, and it's actually indicating incorrectly here with the way we have the system set up. So I'm sure as you can see, today's system test is going to be themed around low-frequency sounders. And so I have two of them in my collection. I recently obtained the System Sensor HWLF, which is occupying the single gang slot here. And then, of course, the Siemens SLF-SW. I always trip over that model number. That is returning as well. And the reason that I have both of these together is because I wanted to show off the difference between the sine wave of this device and the square wave of this. The reason this one was raspy in one of my previous videos, the title of which I can't recall at this time, is because this device, it's not because of the FWR, it's because this device uses a sine wave instead of a square wave, which traditionally is raspier. And so these and most other low-frequency sounders that we're used to use a square wave tone. Why Siemens and Wheelock and Cooper decided that this was the appropriate sound for this, I don't have the answer, but here it is, and we're going to compare the two. This is wired to NAC 1, this is wired to NAC 2, and of course in the absence of strobes on these devices, what I've done is I've taken the moderator alarm and I have gone ahead and switched out the cover plate, which is over here on a separate Wheelock LED exceeder strobe. And I have just put a blank red plate on there, and I switched in the panel programming the relay that this is on, relay 3, to be an alarm relay rather than a supervisory relay. And as a result, the green LED on this indicator, or on this key switch, will come on as well when the system goes into alarm. So a little bit of an unorthodox setup, but here it is. So the system is coded to march time. Both these devices will be doing march time together. And because we've got two horns that are actually capable of being coded, we can play around with some NACs a little bit more today and listen to different coding options and switch things up and go solo on each device and then kind of change things and have maybe one do march time, one do temporal. I don't know. We'll see what happens here, and this should be a bit of a fun video, a little more setting off alarms than usual. So let's go ahead and get started with march time. This is actually one of the few system tests where I am comfortable not wearing hearing protection because the low-frequency 520 Hz tone, it's really more jarring than anything because of the deep pitch. It's not necessarily loud. It's just bold, really. So let's go ahead and see what happens. So definitely plenty bold. It's a little bit loud, but having both of these in person, it's honestly not that bad. Neither one of these have volume adjustments, so there's nothing you can do to make them louder or quieter. So there's really not a whole lot more than just that. This one is capable of doing code 3 and temporal 4 on its own, as well as continuous, that's what this is set to, is uncontinuous, so the panel can code it. It also has the ability, using a Wheelock DSM sync module, to do a combination temporal 3-4. So that way, if you wanted to, it'll automatically be able to activate in temporal 3 for fire and temporal 4 for carbon monoxide. But I don't have a DSM sync module, so that doesn't make much of a difference, so it'll just default to code 3. For the system sensor HWLF, this one is capable of doing temporal 3 continuous and then coded. If you set it to continuous and try to code it by a panel, there's a slight delay that it doesn't pick up on, and it kind of messes with the coding a little bit. So it's set to the coded option, which when power is applied, it will instantly go into a continuous mode, no sync delay or anything like that. So that's why these two are both set to continuous, so that way the panel can code them without conflict. So here is the inside, the rather dusty inside of this pull station, and as you can see, it's pretty basic. It's modeled a lot after the FCI MS6. Oh, sorry, bumping my lens cover here. It's modeled a lot after the FCI MS6, and really any pull station that involved the pull-down handle and the metal lip in order to keep it closed. So it's just got a standard button there, nothing too fancy. And you can see the reset procedure is complicated enough that they actually included the method of resetting it here on the pull station itself. So that's included in the label, as well as the model number there. And then inside here, kind of turn around here, you can barely see it here. I'm trying to zoom in. You can see there's a piece of plastic tape there, and then a foam insert to keep it from falling. But this is where you would store spare glass brake rods. And as you can see, one of them, it looks like it was already missing when I got the pull station used. But there is indeed a spare brake rod there. I might save that for another video talking about brake rods, but that'll be something that I'll have to collect all the pull stations I have brake rods for and give them all pulls, because I've got a few of them now. So we're going to attempt to do this with one hand, and I'm not sure how successful this is going to be, but we'll give it a shot. To reset this pull station, as we saw in the instructions, you have to lift the handle up, and it's not just going to pop back in place. And what you have to do, and I'm going to try and get the top-down shot on this. I forgot my screen articulates. Sorry. What you have to do is you have to insert the screwdriver down in here, behind the tab, and pull forward to get the tab to pop back under the handle, which when it clicked, that's what it did. And then you lift the screwdriver back out, and then finish pushing the station back up. You would also do this, at this time you would insert the glass brake rod, and that's when you would reset the station. So you'd get the handle most of the way up and insert the brake rod at that point into this slot here. So that's how that pull station works. It's really rather odd. It's an interesting pull station. It fits perfectly on a standard 2-inch wire mold back box without much lip at all. It fits even better than the L&Co 51D did, so it's an interesting little piece, and it's kind of cool to have. It's a very slimline pull station, very unobtrusive. So, of course, audible silence going there. Let's go ahead and give the panel a reset. Now what I think I'm going to do for comparison's sake is we're going to set both NACs to temporal 3, but I'm going to start by disabling NAC 2 and only having this one on so you guys can get a better audible difference between the two. It'll give you kind of a comparison between the sine wave and the square wave. So let's go ahead and head over to the panel and start switching around some NACs. There we go. Alright, so we'll go ahead and do mode, programming, no password for you. We'll start by setting NAC 2 to temporal, and we're going to disable it. And then we're going to set NAC 1 to temporal as well. We're going to keep that one enabled. So we're starting with the Siemens SLFSW, and we'll go ahead and do a drill from the panel on this one here. And of course we get the treble for the neck to disable. So it's really rather raspy sounding, and again, that's not attributed to FWR output on this panel. That's simply because they're using a different waveform to really generate the tone on this device. Of course, the moderator alarm is not going off because we're not in full alarm, so the alarm relay doesn't trip on a manual evacuation. Let's go ahead and reset the system and give you a comparison using the system sensor low-frequency sounder. I know. Almost showed you the password. Go Google it. And then disable that neck. Alright, there we go. We may as well do a drill from the annunciator since we don't do that terribly often. Of course, we'll get the treble. You can hear it's a much cleaner sound. This one's definitely louder. So yeah, that one's definitely noticeably louder. This one is more jarring. This one is more punching, I guess, if that makes sense. It's really just that the system sensor's louder, to be honest. If I had a decibel meter, I would do a comparison of that, but I don't have the resources for that, so I'm not going to attempt to do that. So let's go ahead and reset the panel. And just for fun, let's go ahead, have one of them do march time and the other do code 3. Alright, programming. Sorry, I keep bumping this large microphone. So we'll have the Siemens do the march time and the system sensor do temporal. And then for this, we'll go ahead and actually pull the station. Okay, we are initialized. Let's go. So that was kind of entertaining, and I think for the last run here, what we'll do is I'll reverse it, where one does the march time and the other does the temporal 3. I'll just make the Siemens do temporal 3, and the system sensor can do the march time. So I think that should probably be a good conclusion to this video. Just wait for this, and then mode, programming. I'll just switch around and play with the coding here. That goes temporal, that goes... Oh, not steady. That's not what we want. Okay. And then we'll pull the station again just because we're having fun with it. I have no idea what the Siemens was doing. That wasn't right. I feel like I screwed that up in programming. I might have set it to a 2-stage. Anyway, that was interesting. There. Let's see what I did. I was not expecting that. Reset again here. Mode, programming. Oh, I keep bumping. I have such a large camera rig now. It's hard to... Oh, yep, nope, it was 2-stage. Okay, that makes sense. So you were supposed to do temporal. You were supposed to do march time. There we go. My bad. If I'd been paying attention to that instead of the camera, I would have noticed. Anyway, let's go ahead and do a drill for that. And then we'll finish the video. There we go. That's enough of that. And then one last reset. This is getting a little bit easier each time I do it. There we go. There. And I guess now I'm good at resetting it here with one hand, so that makes that a little bit nicer. Go ahead and do one last reset here. I think we are just about good here, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed the low-frequency sounders. Not something I play with very often, but definitely something fun to use, and it's a little bit different than the stuff that's in my collection. I've got a lot of new things that are hanging out up here that I haven't had the chance to make videos of. Definitely check out the videos on those. That was fun. But yeah, there's some pull stations and devices and things that I haven't had the chance to use yet, so I certainly want to get around to making more system tests and spending more time playing around with some of the multi-tone devices and doing some more in-depth videos on those. But anyway, without taking up any more of your time, thank you guys again for watching, and I will hopefully see you next week.